So what should we have done to hold the FBI accountable? That's a question we want to pose to our first guest, the House Minority Whip in Louisiana, Republican Congressman Steve Scalise. Congressman, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, Sean. How you been?
I'm well, thank you. I hope you're doing well. Let's talk about this for a moment. You referred to some of these folks in the FBI as dirty cops. We've talked a lot about this the last couple of days on the show. It's amazing to me that folks that are charged with law enforcement, here they are going up against the National Security Advisor of the United States. And the question is, what can be done about it now that we know all of what's come to light?
Sean, the first thing that needs to happen is real accountability. And frankly, I think people need to go to jail for what happened. Devin Nunes, my colleague from California, has been beating this drum for years. He started digging in and exposing the fact that you had what we call dirty cops in the FBI. I mean, I love our law enforcement agencies. The FBI is one of the vital agencies to keep our country safe. And yet there were some bad apples over there, and they need to be brought to justice, Sean. If you look at what they did, you identified some of the things they did to entrap General Flynn. They tried to do this, by the way. Comey tried to do this to Donald Trump himself. People inside of the FBI, and it probably went all the way up to the top, that were plotting to undermine the elected president of the United States. That shouldn't happen to anybody from any party, and everybody ought to be outraged, no matter what your affiliation is, that you've got these agencies. This is America. I mean, this might happen in third world nations, and we would decry that. These people need to be held accountable. We know some of the names, by the way. This starts with Strzok and Page. I don't know if it goes all the way up to Comey, but boy, it sure looks like it does when they make reference to the 7th floor. That's the leadership at the FBI. Did it even go higher than that? I don't know. But the Durham investigation has been digging into this as a criminal investigation for a long time, but enough's enough. We know enough now to bring charges. I want to see the Department of Justice start holding people accountable. And frankly, people need to go to jail so that everybody else, the by and large, good people at the FBI know that this won't happen again to anybody else.
You know, Congressman, the thing that's interesting is that the Department of Justice and the FBI are run by appointees of this administration. They are appointed by Donald Trump. So why isn't more happening? I mean, why? It's interesting. I get it if it was the other party. But it's to some degree right now, you look and you've got Attorney General Barr, Director Wray, and you're right. Why aren't people being held accountable? What is interesting is you brought this up a minute ago. You said this happened in third world countries. When we were talking to Professor Alan Dershowitz last week, he said it's scary how often this does happen, and that you get a guy like Flynn who pleads guilty, not necessarily because he was guilty, but because you got the pressure of the Justice Department weighing down on you, both financially and, in his case, according to K.T. McFarland, pressuring his family. I think that this really should worry every American, shouldn't it?
It really should. And like you said, they were going after his son, too, just to extort a guilty plea out of him. I mean, they set forth to get a guilty plea, as they said, to either prosecute him or to get him to resign or get him fired. Why should they care who the president's national security advisor is? Donald Trump was duly elected. And if you were at the FBI, I mean, I'm sure everybody has a preference on who they voted for. But you check your partisanship at the door when you wear that badge, whether you're a cop on the beat or whether you're an FBI agent. You're not supposed to let your personal affiliation interfere with the job you do. And clearly these people did. And that's why it is very frustrating, Sean. This is going on for too long. I know there's an investigation still going on, the Durham investigation. But we know enough already. I mean, I've seen things both publicly and in some of the classified briefings that are more than enough to bring somebody to trial. And I think the more you pursue that, if the Department of Justice were to go after the people we already know, but abuse their power, I think a lot of them would roll over on people even higher up, because we know it wasn't just a few renegade rogues. There are a few more people that need to be held accountable. And again, it restores the integrity of the entire FBI that has this cloud lingering over its head for years. It's been out there. People see this. While the press isn't covering it, the mainstream press, you are obviously, a lot of people haven't seen just how bad this is, but a lot of people have known something went on within the FBI. The Obama administration let Russia try to interfere with our election, but they were trying, someone in the Obama administration was trying to undermine the candidacy of a president of the United States, a candidate, and Donald Trump. And that shouldn't happen to anybody.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is troubling, what happened. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. I'd like to ask you to stick around for a moment, bring you back after the break, and talk to you about what's going on to get America moving again.
Be happy to.
And while the Senate reconvenes, House Republicans are pushing back against efforts by Democratic leaders to move the chamber to virtual hearings and instead are demanding that Congress fully reopen itself, with Representative Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader, saying, quote, "The business of the People's House is essential work that must not be sidelined or ground to a halt." Here to talk about all this and more, we welcome back House Minority Whip and Louisiana Republican, Congressman Steve Scalise. Congressman, thanks for sticking around.
Sure, Sean.
All right, so the Senate's back this week. The House is not. What's your message to Speaker Pelosi?
Speaker Pelosi needs to open the House back up and show the country that as other businesses are back up and running, you've got hospital workers and doctors out there. You've got people at grocery stores that are taking safe precautions to open up and serve the public. Congress ought to be on the front line of getting back to work and showing the country how to do it safely, Sean. That's the thing. There's no trade-off between safety and getting the economy back going. You can and must do both. Look, we just had a vote a week and a half ago on the House floor, and it worked very smoothly. You had 385 members that showed up to Washington, and we had social distancing. We were able to do our business and pass legislation to continue helping small businesses. There's no reason we shouldn't be having, at a minimum, hearings in some of these large rooms where you can be socially distant, but doing things like holding China accountable. There is a lot that we need to do to go after how this started, how China withheld evidence, what more we can learn to help people reopen parts of the economy. Because, Sean, if we don't start reopening soon, there are a lot of small businesses that we know right now that won't come back, that are just going to fold and go bankrupt. And we're already seeing suicides on the increase. We're seeing heart disease, other things that are related to depression from people being out of work, from people losing everything they built their entire life. That's going on too, and we need to be concerned about that. As you can see, protocols for reopening safely, people are ready to get out. And if somebody doesn't feel comfortable going out, they can stay home or they can put on a mask. We know who the most vulnerable populations are, but we also know for everybody else, if they want to get back out, there are states that are doing it smartly. They can go county by county or parish by parish in Louisiana's case, but they can start doing it, and it needs to happen soon, Sean.
So, there's this question about, you mentioned doing it safely. The White House had offered to provide Congress, the House, and the Senate with these rapid COVID-19 tests. In a bipartisan way, Speaker Pelosi and McConnell got together and said, no, thank you. I get the optics of this, which is that, hey, we don't want it to look like we're getting something that our constituents don't maybe have access to. But you guys are the leaders of the country. If you guys aren't working, it's hard for people to get the money that they need because you guys have to pass the laws. And I mean, all the stuff you do. Do you think that was a foolish thing to turn down the test because it might have looked politically tone deaf, but pound wise, penny foolish kind of thing, that you should have taken, that everyone should have gotten the ability to take the test so you knew you were safe?
Well, look, whether or not they take the testing machines, those Abbott machines, we still know there are other devices out there. Technology is moving very rapidly, and they've got those little handheld temperature checks that can, within 2 seconds, tell your temperature. And what we've seen, a lot of medical experts have said this, by the way, that one of the first signs that somebody might have COVID-19 is if they've got a temperature over 100 degrees. And for those folks, maybe you test them, or maybe you just tell them if you're over 100, stay at home and get better. But for everybody else, go out, still keep a social distance. And there are precautions you can take, including washing your hands, that you can still get around and do your business. And Congress needs to lead on that level. Again, whether you test or not, most people don't want to take the test, knowing that you can take it. We need to get more widespread testing, but at the same time, there's an ability to get this done.
Right, but Congressman, here's the thing: it's not just you guys, right? You bringing back your staff, the Capitol Police, the stenographers, everyone. Wouldn't it be good to make sure that we knew that when you guys came back, that you were tested and everyone was safe? On its face, it's available. It seems to me that it's a pretty simple proposition. Take the test. It's for the safety not just of you guys, but of everyone around you, and it gives them peace of mind.
Yeah, look, there's a big debate right now about how widespread testing needs to be for a lot of people. And again, I was just talking to a colleague of mine from Georgia because they just started reopening everything last week. And they're having really good success with people being safe. And they have testing facilities. And I've heard most of those testing facilities have hardly had anybody that wanted to come in and get tested. But it's available in some of those communities. At the end of the day, what we need to be focused on is laying out safe protocols for people, including letting people know if you are sick, if you have a fever over 100 degrees, you might want to go get tested, but you surely shouldn't be going out around the public because you probably have something, whether it's the flu or COVID. But for everyone else, there are safe protocols for going back out again. Businesses, workplaces are starting to figure out, if you had offices already, you can be separate. But if you're in tighter confines, they're separating people. Restaurants are learning how to serve people even at tables, but maybe they spread the tables apart. We're smart. We're Americans. We know how to figure this out. But at the same time, if you keep things closed down for too long of a period of time, there are a lot of businesses and jobs that won't come back. And people are starting to realize that too. And the health costs of losing that opportunity for people in their way of life, their quality of life, it's so important.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Congressman, for both your leadership. I hope you stay safe, and we look forward to having you back soon.
Absolutely. It's always great seeing you, Sean, and you be safe too.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems or go to newsmaxtv.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.